The laughter echoed through our family's dining room, sharp and mocking as I sat quietly at the Thanksgiving table. My brother Michael, the successful cardiologist, had just finished telling everyone about his latest achievement, a complicated heart surgery that made headlines in the local medical community. Speaking of medical careers, my mother said, her voice dripping with disappointment as she turned to me, Sarah still hasn't told us why she dropped out of medical school 5 years ago. I gripped my fork tighter, my knuckles turning white. At 32, I was supposedly the family failure, the one who couldn't handle the pressure of following in the family's medical legacy. Oh, Mom, leave her alone, Michael smirked, his voice far from sympathetic. Not everyone is cut out for medicine. I mean, look at her now. What exactly do you do again, little sister? Something with hospital management. The table fell silent, all eyes turning to me. My father, Dr. James Anderson, chief of surgery at Anderson Memorial Hospital, named after my grandfather, simply shook his head and continued eating. The hospital had been in our family for 3 generations and I was supposed to be the 4th. Instead, I'd chosen a different path. I work in healthcare consulting, I said quietly, maintaining my composure. What they didn't know was that healthcare consulting meant I was the CEO of Phoenix Healthcare Solutions, one of the largest hospital acquisition and management firms in the country. I operated through shell companies and subsidiaries, keeping my identity private. The business world knew me only as SA Phoenix. Consulting, my mother repeated the word like it was a disease. Meanwhile, your brother is saving lives, your sister Elena is head of pediatrics, and you're giving advice? Elena, my older sister, reached over and patted my hand with fake sympathy. Don't worry, Sarah. Not everyone can handle the pressure of medical school. Remember how you used to get nervous during anatomy labs? More laughter rippled around the table. I thought back to those days in medical school not because I couldn't handle the pressure, but because I saw something my family refused to acknowledge. Hospitals weren't just about medicine, they were businesses that needed proper management to survive. At least she's not completely unemployed, my father finally spoke, his words cutting deeper than any scalpel. Though I still don't understand why you gave up. The Anderson name would have opened any door for you in the medical world. If only they knew that I'd spent the last 5 years building an empire that now owned 27 hospitals across the country. Phoenix Healthcare Solutions was known for turning failing hospitals into profitable centers of medical excellence, all while maintaining the highest standards of patient care. Pass the potatoes, please, I said, changing the subject. Let them think what they wanted. Soon enough, they'd learn the truth. What my family didn't know was that their precious Anderson Memorial Hospital was in serious trouble. Their old-school approach to hospital management had left them hemorrhaging money. 6 failed safety inspections in the past year, outdated equipment, and a staff retention rate that was plummeting, all signs of a hospital on the brink of collapse. I'd been watching from afar, monitoring their financial reports through my connections. They needed help, but their pride would never let them admit it. Not yet, anyway. Did you hear about Brighton General? Michael asked Dad, referring to their biggest competitor in the city. They just got bought out by some mysterious healthcare group. Phoenix something. I took a sip of water to hide my smile. Brighton General had been my latest acquisition, and I'd already begun implementing changes that would make it the premier medical facility in the region. Phoenix Healthcare Solutions, my father grumbled. They've been buying up hospitals all over the state. Probably some corporate vultures who don't understand real medicine. Elena nodded in agreement. I heard they're ruthlessly efficient. They fired the entire board at St. Mary's after taking over. Because the board was embezzling funds meant for the pediatric ward, I said before I could stop myself. Everyone turned to look at me again. And how would you know that? Michael asked, his tone suspicious. It was in the news, I lied smoothly. In reality, I had personally uncovered the corruption and ensured those responsible faced consequences. The money had been returned to where it belonged, helping sick children. Well, my father said dismissively, Anderson Memorial will never need outside help. We've managed just fine for 3 generations. I thought about the report sitting in my home office, detailing exactly how fine they were doing. Their latest safety inspection had revealed critical issues in the emergency department. The hospital's accreditation was hanging by a thread. Actually, Dad, Elena spoke up, her voice carrying a note of concern, we should talk about the latest budget report. The numbers aren't looking good. For the first time that evening, I saw a flicker of worry cross my father's face. He quickly masked it, but I knew the truth. They were months away from a financial crisis. Nothing to worry about, he said firmly. We've weathered rough patches before. But this wasn't just a rough patch. Anderson Memorial needed a complete overhaul, new equipment, updated procedures, and most importantly, new management. They just didn't know it yet. As I helped clear the dishes after dinner, I overheard my father in his study, arguing with someone on the phone. We can't afford another failed inspection. Yes, I know the equipment is outdated, but the replacement costs. No, we can't close the cardiac wing, that's our highest revenue department. I closed my eyes, knowing what was coming. Within 2 weeks they would reach their breaking point. The question was, would their pride let them accept help from the daughter they considered a failure? Later that night, as I drove home to my penthouse apartment, I made a call to my CFO. Jessica, proceed with phase 2. Have the offer ready by next week. And remember, absolute discretion about my identity. Yes, Ms. Phoenix. Should I include the clause about retaining current management? I thought about my father's dismissive attitude, Michael's smug superiority, and Elena's fake sympathy. No, I replied firmly. This time we clean house completely. The next morning I walked into my office on the top floor of the Phoenix Healthcare building, 40 stories above the city. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a perfect view of Anderson Memorial Hospital 6 blocks away. On my desk sat the latest inspection report, another failed safety audit. I picked up my phone and called my head of acquisitions. Mark, how long until Anderson Memorial reaches critical? Their last line of credit gets pulled next week. After that, they have maybe 2 weeks before they're forced to shut down departments. They don't know it yet, but they're already past the point of no return. I nodded even though he couldn't see me. Make sure Brighton General is ready to absorb their patient overflow when the time comes. We don't want any disruption in patient care. Already done. But Sarah, he paused, are you sure you want to do this? They're your family. I looked at the family photo on my desk, taken 10 years ago at my medical school graduation. Before I walked away. Before I decided to save lives in a different way. They stopped being family the day they decided I was a failure for seeing the bigger picture. Now they're just another failing hospital that needs saving. But first they would have to hit rock bottom. And from the urgent messages already filling my phone, that moment was coming faster than even I had anticipated. 2 weeks after that disastrous Thanksgiving dinner, I sat in my office reviewing the final paperwork. Anderson Memorial Hospital had just failed its 7th safety inspection. Their last financial lifeline, Midwest Credit Union, had pulled their emergency funding yesterday. The hospital board was calling an emergency meeting this afternoon, a meeting where Phoenix Healthcare Solutions would present its surprise acquisition offer. My phone buzzed. It was Elena. Sarah, her voice trembled, losing its usual condescension. I know we don't talk much, but something's happening at the hospital. Dad's not himself. He's locked himself in his office and Michael's been in there for hours. I think it's bad. I checked my watch. 2:15 p.m. The board meeting was at 3 o'clock. How bad? I asked, keeping my voice neutral. We might lose the hospital, she whispered, as if saying it louder would make it more real. Some company called Phoenix Healthcare Solutions has been buying up all our debt. They own everything. The board's meeting today to discuss a takeover offer. I could hear the panic in her voice. The mighty Anderson family about to lose their legacy. That's terrible, I said while signing the final acquisition document on my desk. Have you considered that this might be for the best? For the best. Elena's voice rose sharply. This is our family's legacy. Mom and Dad are devastated. Michael's career is here. My whole department might be shut down. And you don't even care, do you? I thought about the pediatric ward's outdated equipment, the understaffed emergency room, the corners cut to save money. Some legacy. I have to go, Elena. Good luck with the meeting. At 2:45 I changed into my power suit, a sharp black Armani that I'd never wear to family dinners. I picked up my briefcase containing the contracts and took the private elevator down to the garage where my driver waited. To Anderson Memorial, I told him. The hospital loomed ahead, its familiar facade now looking tired and worn. I'd practically grown up in these halls, watching my father and grandfather work, dreaming of the day I'd join them. just not in the way they'd expected. The boardroom was on the 4th floor. Through the glass walls, I could see them already gathered 12 board members, my father at the head of the table, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Michael sat to his right, Elena hovering anxiously by the window. My mother sat in the corner, clutching her designer handbag like a lifeline. My heels clicked against the polished floor as I approached. The board's secretary looked up. "Miss Phoenix, they're ready for you." I smiled. "Thank you, Linda." The room fell silent as I walked in. I saw the exact moment recognition hit them, the way their eyes widened, jaws dropped, bodies stiffened in their expensive leather chairs. "Sarah." My father's voice was barely a whisper. "Good afternoon, everyone," I said calmly, setting my briefcase on the table. "I'm S.A. Phoenix, CEO of Phoenix Healthcare Solutions. I believe we have some business to discuss." Michael shot to his feet. "This is a joke, right? Little Sarah's playing dress-up." I pulled out the acquisition contracts and began distributing them around the table. "As you're all aware, Anderson Memorial Hospital has failed 7 safety inspections in the past year. Your emergency funding has been withdrawn. 3 departments are operating with equipment that's well below current medical standards. Staff turnover is at 60% and you're facing 3 malpractice suits." "How dare you dash," my father started, but I cut him off. "Phoenix Healthcare Solutions now owns all of your outstanding debt. We also own the mortgage on this building. As of this morning, we've acquired controlling interest in your management company." I met each board member's eyes. "You have 2 options. Accept our purchase offer, which will allow us to implement immediate improvements and save this hospital, or file for bankruptcy by the end of the week." Elena pressed her hands against the glass wall, looking like she might faint. My mother had gone completely pale. "The offer is generous," I continued. "All current medical staff will be evaluated based on performance metrics. Those who meet our standards will be retained." "And current management?" one of the board members asked. "Will be replaced immediately." My father slammed his hand on the table. "You can't do this. This hospital is our legacy. A legacy of outdated equipment, dangerous practices and financial mismanagement," I replied coldly. "Tell me, Dad, when was the last time you updated the cardiac monitoring systems in the ICU? When did you last approve funding for new surgical equipment? How many young doctors have left because you refused to implement modern procedures?" Michael stood up again. "You don't know anything about running a hospital. You couldn't even finish medical school." I smiled, pulling out one final document: Phoenix Healthcare's latest annual report. In the past 5 years, Phoenix Healthcare Solutions has acquired 27 failing hospitals. Every single one is now operating at a profit while maintaining the highest standard of patient care. Our mortality rates are 40% lower than the national average. Our staff retention rate is 92%. And our patient satisfaction scores are the highest in the country. The board members were flipping through the numbers, their expressions shifting from skepticism to surprise to realization. "So," I said, "shall we discuss the terms of the acquisition?" "Sarah," my mother finally spoke, her voice small. "Why are you doing this to us?" I turned to her, feeling the weight of years of dismissal and disappointment. "I'm not doing this to you. I'm doing this for every patient who deserves better than what this hospital has become. I'm doing this because while you were all so busy protecting your precious legacy, you forgot what that legacy was supposed to be about: saving lives." The next hour passed in a blur of signatures and legal terms. My father refused to sign at first, but when the board voted overwhelmingly in favor of the acquisition, he had no choice. Michael stormed out halfway through, Elena following close behind. As the board members filed out, I remained seated, organizing the signed contracts. My father stood by the window staring out at the city. "All those years," he said quietly, "when you said you were working in consulting, I was building something bigger than just another surgeon's career. I finished for him. I found a way to save more lives than I ever could have in an operating room." He turned to face me, and for the first time I saw something new in his eyes. Not disappointment, not anger, but understanding. "What happens now?" "Now," I stood up, gathering my things, "we turn this hospital into what it should have been all along, a state-of-the-art medical facility that puts patients first. The renovations begin next week. New equipment arrives on Monday. And yes, you're all being replaced. All of us. You can reapply for positions if you wish. But you'll have to earn them on merit, not name. I walked to the door, then paused. Oh, and Dad? The hospital's keeping the Anderson name. Not because of legacy, but because from now on it's going to give that name meaning again. 3 months later, I stood in the newly renovated emergency department of Anderson Memorial Hospital. The changes were dramatic. New equipment in every room, fully staffed departments, modernized procedures. Michael had taken a position at another hospital across the city. Elena, surprisingly, had reapplied for her position and was now thriving under the new management system. My father had retired, but I often saw him walking the halls, watching the improvements with a mixture of regret and pride. My mother still barely spoke to me, but I noticed she'd framed the newspaper article about Phoenix Healthcare's successful transformation of Anderson Memorial. As I checked the latest patient satisfaction scores on my tablet, a young resident rushed past, then stopped and turned back. Dr. Anderson. I mean Miss Phoenix. The new cardiac unit is amazing. We're seeing outcomes we never thought possible. I smiled. That's what happens when you combine good medicine with good management. My phone buzzed, a text from Elena. Family dinner this Sunday? Mom's cooking. I thought for a moment, then replied, only if we can talk about something besides medicine. Deal, she texted back. Though Michael says you're still not a real doctor. I laughed, looking around at my hospital, because that's what it truly was now. Not a family legacy, but a place where lives were actually being saved. No, I typed back. I'm something better. Later that evening, as I stood in my office overlooking the city, I thought about that scared medical student who'd walked away from her family's expectations 5 years ago. They'd called me a failure, a disappointment, someone who couldn't handle the pressure. But sometimes the biggest success comes from having the courage to fail in the way others expect so you can succeed in the way you know matters most. I picked up a new acquisition proposal from my desk. Another struggling hospital in need of saving. Time to get back to work. After all, I had a lot more lives to save, just not in the way my family had expected. The nameplate on my desk caught the setting sun's light. Sarah Anderson Phoenix, Sue. Finally, both my names together, representing not what my family wanted me to be, but who I had chosen to become.